live in interesting times. Today's stories. German president warns about the return of anti-Semitism in Germany. A Brazilian town devastated by floods faces muddy desolation. Yemenis in Sana'a condemn the U.S. peace plan as, quote, scandal of the century. Palestinians protest in Bethlehem against President Trump's peace plan. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention faces the challenge of 2019 novel coronavirus outbreak in the U.S. A U.S. evacuation flight from China's coronavirus zone lands in California. Flash for EBC Sports, Kobe fans grieve at the Mamba Sports Center, and players and coaches remember Kobe at a somber Clippers Magic game. This is Eagle News coming to you from Las Vegas, bringing you stories from around the globe. I'm Anna Clee. German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier expresses concern about the return of anti-Semitism and racism in his country during a commemoration of the Holocaust in the Bundestag in the presence of his Israeli counterpart.
Ich wünschte, ich könnte erst recht vor unserem Gast aus Israel, ich wünschte, ich könnte mit Überzeugung sagen, wir Deutsche haben verstanden. Doch wie kann ich das sagen, wenn Hass und Hetze sich wieder ausbreiten, wenn das Gift des Nationalismus wieder in Debatten einsickert, auch bei uns?
Debris litters the streets of the Brazilian town of Raposos after a storm that left dozens dead following torrential rains, the worst since records were first kept 110 years ago. At least 45 people have died in floods that followed record rainfall in a town in the southeastern region of Brazil. In Sabara, a town of some 130,000 residents on the edge of Belo Horizonte, the capital of the state of Minas Gerais, homes built on the banks of the Rio das Velhas River were completely submerged by mud and water, their roofs either ripped off by the surging current or caved in under the weight of the mud. 15,000 people had to leave their homes across Minas Gerais, where more than 100 towns have been put on a state of alert. Most of those who died in the wake of the violent storms that swept the southeast of Brazil perished in landslides or when their homes collapsed in the floods and unprecedented rains. The authorities reported 44 dead late Sunday, but a 45th fatality was reported Monday, and the toll is expected to rise further with another 18 people still listed as missing. Firefighters and the Red Cross have launched a campaign to gather donations to help the flood victims. Most of the buildings that were destroyed had been built without permits and in areas considered to be at risk. The National Meteorological Institute said the rainfall was the heaviest ever recorded in Minas Gerais since records began 110 years ago. In other news, Yemenis in Sana'a condemn President Trump's peace plan for the Middle East, considering it the, quote, scandal of the century and viewing it as humiliating and submissive.
الحقيقة هي ليست صفقة القرن وإنما فضيحة القرن لأنها عرت النوايا الأمريكية أمام شعوب المنطقة وأيضا عرت عملائها في المنطقة وبالتالي لن تستفيد من هذه أو ما يسمى بصفقة القرن لن تستفيد منها لا أمريكا ولا الكيان الصهيوني. نرفض اتفاقيات أوسلو فبالتالي فنحن نرفض بكل تأكيد ما يسمى بصفقة القرن والتي كشفت حقيقة النوايا الأمريكية والغربية والإسرائيلية.
بالنسبة لصفقة القرن التي أعلنها ترامب هي لن تكن تتأتى إلا بعد موافقة أنظمة عربية وافقت على هذا الخنوع وهذا الذل، ولكن الأمل بالله سبحانه وتعالى وبالشعوب وكذلك ببقية الدول التي تقف ضد المشروع الأمريكي والمشروع الصهيوني في المنطقة.
أتت اليوم ليتنازلوا عن الوطن العربي بأجمعه لصالح الكيان الصهيوني ليتربع على عرش الأمة العربية والإسلامية وعلى ثرواتها وممراتها المائية التي تتحكم بما يزيد عن 65% من اقتصاديات العالم الرابط بين القارات.
الصين عربية ستظل عربية والقدس ستظل عربية يعني إلى أبد إلى أن تقوم الساعة. يعني نحن على الأرض يعني كعرب نرفض هذه الخطة وإن تبناها بعض العملاء في المنطقة.
Palestinians in Bethlehem protest against U.S. President Donald Trump's long-delayed Middle East peace plan as Israeli soldiers fire tear gas canisters at Palestinian protesters, burning tires and throwing stones at security forces. President Donald Trump's long-delayed Middle East peace plan won support in Israel on Wednesday, but was bitterly rejected by Palestinians facing possible Israeli annexation of key parts of the West Bank. Trump, who unveiled the plan on Tuesday at the White House standing alongside Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, with no Palestinian representatives on hand, said his initiative could succeed where others had failed. Major powers and some regional players responded with caution, saying Trump's project deserves study, while stressing that a durable solution to the conflict can only emerge through Israeli-Palestinian negotiations. But Trump's proposals reportedly included no Palestinian input and grants Israel much of what it has sought in decades of international diplomacy, namely control over Jerusalem as its undivided capital rather than a city to share with the Palestinians. It also offers a U.S. green light for Israel to annex the strategically crucial Jordan Valley, which accounts for around 30% of the West Bank, as well as other Jewish settlements in the area. Using the Israeli term for the occupied West Bank, Israel's right-wing defense minister Naftali Bennett said, quote, "History knocked on our door last night and gave us unique opportunity to apply Israel law." In a statement late Tuesday, the Blue and White Party, led by Benny Gantz, Netanyahu's main election rival in March, to polls embraced Trump's proposals as offering a strong, viable basis for advancing a peace accord with the Palestinians. But the head of Israel's left-wing coalition, Labor Gesher Meretz, Amir Peretz, condemned Netanyahu's expected move towards unilateral annexations. Up next, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention faces the challenge of 2019 novel coronavirus outbreak in the U.S. A U.S. evacuation flight from China's coronavirus zone lands in California. Plus, for EBC Sports, Kobe fans grieve at the Mamba Sports Center, and players and coaches remember Kobe at a somber Clippers Magic game. Eagle News will be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is Eagle News coming to you from Las Vegas. The CDC now faces the challenge of the 2019 novel coronavirus outbreak here in the United States. Rose Papaangelis reports.
The latest and primary concerns in the international and domestic medical world today is the rapid outbreak of the 2019 novel coronavirus. From its origin in Wuhan, China, the virus, scientifically named 2019 nCoV, has spread to about 18 locations around the world, including Europe and the United States. Most of those who have been infected were associated with travel from Wuhan, China. Early on, majority of the cases were suspected to be animal-to-person spread. Eventually, there were reported cases of person-to-person spread. The source of the virus is still being researched thoroughly and systematically by public health organizations. CDC response: on January 27, 2020, CDC issued travel guidance for China, recommending that travelers avoid all non-essential travel to all of the country. Level 3 travel health notice. Teams have been deployed to U.S. locations to assist health departments with clinical management, contact tracing, and communications. There is currently a real-time reverse transcription polymerase chain reaction, which is RRT-PCR test, being implemented at CDC, but is expected to be shared with other domestic and international partners.
Thanks, Rose. The CDC, or Centers for Disease Control, said a U.S. charter flight that left Wuhan on Wednesday with 210 Americans on board, including consulate staff, lands at March Air Reserve Base in California. Passengers were screened and monitored before arriving at the base. The CDC said they will be evaluated on landing and then monitored again for symptoms. Foreign airlines began suspending flights to and from China on Wednesday as global fears mounted over a coronavirus epidemic that has killed 132 people and infected around 6,000. The flight announcements came hours after some countries began airlifts of their nationals trapped in Wuhan, the quarantined central Chinese city of 11 million people at the epicenter of the health emergency. Among the 206 Japanese nationals who returned home, 12 were hospitalized for tests and monitoring because they felt unwell or showed flu-like symptoms. A growing number of governments, including the United States, Britain, and Germany, have advised their citizens to avoid non-essential travel to China over concerns about the viral outbreak. China has urged its own citizens to delay trips abroad, with at least 15 countries having confirmed cases of the disease. The United Arab Emirates reported the first known case in the Middle East on Wednesday. British Airways was the first major airline to announce a total suspension of flights to and from China, citing the travel advice of the Foreign Office. Indonesia's Lion Air Group, Southeast Asia's biggest carrier by fleet size, then said it would halt services to and from China from Saturday until further notice. Meanwhile, Kazakhstan, an important China trade partner, stopped issuing visas to Chinese citizens and said it would halt cross-border passenger train traffic and suspend regular flights between the neighbors. Airlines from Myanmar and Nepal also announced suspensions of all China routes. Cathay Pacific has reduced flights, citing low demand and the Hong Kong government's plan against the virus. In one of the most dramatic measures, the tiny Pacific nation of Papua New Guinea announced no travelers from Asia would be allowed in. Mongolia closed its border to cars from China earlier this week. Fans of basketball legend Kobe Bryant gathered outside the Mamba Sports Academy in California to mourn his tragic death. JC Gabentina reports.
Now in Osa, California, people continue to gather to remember the life and legacy of basketball legend Kobe Bryant.
I just woke up, I checked my phone and all I see is the news, and it just hit me really hard. He was a big role model in my life. He taught me a lot of things, perseverance, just to keep going, and it was just a really big shock to me.
I was just in complete shock. I kind of thought it was an internet hoax or something that just came out. Kobe was a person I thought would never die. He was just a person I thought would live forever. For sure. I was actually at a friend's house, and she told me the news, and I didn't believe it. They said, no, that's not true. And then next thing you know, I turn on the news and I see that a helicopter crashed, but they haven't released who was on the helicopter. And then 30 minutes later, they confirmed that he was on. And I just started crying because Kobe was just an idol for me. I grew up playing basketball. My brother, I've coached my brother in basketball. He's looked up to Kobe, and he's just a household name that we just grew up to watch.
No, I was coming out of the gym.
Yeah.
And I do Zumba. So I was on a high when I left the gym. And I got an Facebook alert. So that's how I found out it was on Facebook. Initially, it was just a helicopter crash. They didn't really confirm yet, but it was a possibility that he was on the helicopter. And so I immediately Googled, because I know there's a lot of hoax, especially with celebrities.
Yeah.
And so I immediately Googled it. It still didn't say anything yet. And then I called my brother, he didn't answer, and then my daughter called me. And she was home, and it was breaking in the news, and she told me, and at that time I was already sobbing. I mean, I had this feeling that it was true.
Yeah.
And so it was just a overwhelming, numbing, can't believe it, no way, not Kobe. And I've been following him we're the same age, we're a month apart, since high school. And I've been to his games. I follow him on social media. I've seen his kids grow up. It's just unbelievable. Unbelievable.
The pain of the 9 lives lost is still fresh in the heart of mourners. But as is the human condition, people find comfort in community.
that point proven here at the Mambo Sports Academy, where the arrival of those wishing to pay their respects will no doubt continue in the days ahead. I'm Jason Gabrantina, Eagle News, and I am 1 with 25.
Thanks, JC. Meanwhile, in Florida, players and coaches at the Clippers and Magic game expressed grief over Kobe Bryant's death. Eagle News correspondent Melissa Potes has the details.
Hours after the loss of NBA legend Kobe Bryant, the LA Clippers and the Orlando Magic took the court at Amway Center. The atmosphere was different, somber for a basketball game. They honored the Black Mamba with a moment of silence, and like previous games that day, a 24-second shot clock violation and an 8-second backcourt violation were made by each team to chants of While the Clippers would win 112-97, the sentiment was the same. This game was different.
You know, and I told our guys, like, I don't, before the game, I don't know how you handle this. Like, I don't, it's such a shock. Some of you may not feel anything right now. You may come out during the game. We're not prepared. Nobody is for tragedies like this. We just aren't. And, it was a tough night.
It was tough. It was quiet before the game. It's hard to focus because, of course, it's bigger than basketball. What happened. It's hard to even talk about. It's hard to focus. So we try to, we went out there, tried our best, try to keep our minds off it, but it's definitely hard.
It was tough. I just felt a little bit. It's hard to explain. It just didn't feel right. Playing out there, it was just it was sad. It was just, I don't know. It's hard to explain how it just wasn't. Definitely wasn't a normal feeling being out there.
Definitely different, and it's just a different feeling for sure. You could sense it in the locker room. Doc said his guys were the same way. So it's a tough day. It's a tough day for our league and just for. Sports fans and obviously his family and the people that knew him, and there's not many guys like him. So it's a difficult day for sure.
After the game, players and fans reminisced about what Kobe meant to them and to the sports world.
He came out as one of the guys that straight out of high school and no college. And the first year that he played, he was second-guessing himself, and maybe I should have stayed with it, should have stayed in college, didn't get a lot of playing time. Coaching staff wasn't exactly agreeing with what he wanted to do, and he became one of the best players to ever be on planet Earth. The impact that he's brought to this sport, it's unfathomable. You can't really fathom it. It's unfathomable, but yeah, it's huge.
Kobe and I've had some interactions over the years, becoming acquainted, and this past summer it really felt like, he started to develop a mentorship with me, and it was a beautiful thing, just to get to experience some of the things that he was teaching us about the game of basketball. My rookie year in Philly, the game we played against them, he had to surpass Shaq. He needed like 23-4 points, something like that, and he did it in the first half, setting he hit like 3 threes in a row, like crazy shots, just Kobe at his best, and I was really wild in that moment. So that's really a great memory I have of him live. That was the first time playing against him, and that was just awesome.
He means a lot to all of us, whether you knew him personally, had conversations with him, or just watched him growing up. He means a lot to a lot of people, and he gave us that drive when we felt like we wanted to quit. He had that Mamba mentality where he instilled that in all of us, just through his hard work. So it was hard. It's definitely a real tough loss for everyone.
In the words of Kobe Bryant, the most important thing, the thing that unites all of us, is that we can inspire and challenge one another to be better and do something great for each other. In Orlando, Florida, Melissa Potes, Eagle News, always 1 with 25.
Thanks, Melissa. That is today's Eagle News. Join us again tomorrow for stories that matter to you. Visit our websites at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/eaglenews and on Facebook at facebook.com/eaglenews. Thank you for watching. I'm Anna Kui, and I am 1 with 25.